And it's good to see you all again this morning. I wanted to make one little announcement when we go through this. If there's anyone new here, we kind of clip right along, and there's really no time to take notes. And I don't want you to have to take notes because it's going to distract you from hearing the program. But we have books with this entire program in it, so don't worry about taking notes today, okay? If you don't want to. Shall we bow our heads for prayer? Our most kind, gracious Father in heaven, we do invite your Holy Spirit to be here with us right now. You are the Master, and I am your servant, Lord, and I pray for your Holy Spirit to just speak through me. I'm just a vessel for you to use, and I pray that you will touch my lips from a live coal from off of your altar, that I will speak your words. And please be with everyone that is listening and anoint their ears, Lord, that they may hear what you want them to hear today and help us to grasp the understanding of your word. And we just want to thank you and praise you for hearing and answering our prayers today in Christ's name. Amen. A young lady came up to me yesterday. She had a new article that just came out on the subject that we're speaking about. And I couldn't get it off my phone to give to you, but I did write it down. It's just a sentence that I want to let you know just what we're saying here is for real. This is a quote by Netanyahu, what he said. And it says, yesterday she gave me the article, and so it must have been the day before. An Iranian general brazenly declared that, I quote, Israelis' destruction is non-negotiable. Wow. But evidently giving Iran's murderous regime a clear path to the bomb is negotiable. And that's why it looks from the nations not wanting to deal with Iran. And here's little bitty Israel, very concerned because they're caught in a really hard place. So with that, we're going to get started. And we're going to be talking about surrendering the birthright. For those who may be new, we're talking Israel being the king of the south and Islam being king of the north, and the battle that has been going on over there for years, and it's continuing, and it's just going to lead to Jesus' second coming. This is where we're going. Okay. Of all the outstanding issues in the way of an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal, the status of Jerusalem is the one of the most complex and sensitive. It is one which seems to offer little scope for compromise. The vast majority of Israelis insist that a united Jerusalem will be the eternal capital of the Jewish state. With equal insistence, the Palestinians say that the Arab eastern part of Jerusalem should be the capital of their new state. The jihad will continue. You have to understand, our main battle is Jerusalem. No, it is not their capital, it is ours. He, Islam, shall also set his face, means with determination, to enter with the strength or power of his, Islam's whole kingdom. That's all the Arabs united, the Muslim Brotherhood. And upright ones, it means to bring an equitable agreement with him. Thus shall he, Islam, do or accomplish. Upright means straight. In verse 6, the word agreement has the same meaning as upright. In verse 17, agreement, evenness, and straightness. So what does this word straight mean in the context of this verse? Straight means not curved, extending or proceeding in one single direction without bends, curves, or deviations. Equitable, fair, characterized by justice or fairness and impartiality towards those involved. He, Islam, will set his face to come with the power of his whole kingdom, bringing with him a proposal of peace which he will put into effect. Now, this is a different translation. It just made it a little more clear. And this is the Amplified Bible simplifying this verse. He shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and with him upright conditions and terms of peace. And he shall perform them by making an agreement with the southern king. Terms, the way people get along together. The part that makes up an agreement, the requirements laid down formally in an agreement or contract, or proposed by one side when negotiating an agreement. After Islam seizes Israel, they will present to the Jews their terms of peace, a straight agreement proceeding in one single direction, all in favor of Islam. There will be no changes, deviations, nor anything unauthorized or unacceptable in this agreement for Israel. The Jews must humble themselves and yield to this strong force against them or be annihilated. For the king's daughter of the south, Jerusalem, shall come or be given to the king of the north, Islam, to make an agreement or peace treaty. Continuing with verse 17, and he, Israel, shall give him, Islam, the daughter of women, Jerusalem, corrupting or losing her. Daughter means the apple of the eye, Zion, Jerusalem. Woman is wife or Israel. Deliver thyself, O Zion, for he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. For the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem. The hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. This battle is all about sovereignty over Jerusalem, specifically who will own the title deed of the 45-acre plot in Jerusalem called the Temple Mount, which houses the holy sites of both Jews and Muslims. Islam will demand of Israel to give up the old city, which houses all of the traditional biblical sites, which means so much to the Jewish nation. This they call an equitable agreement, expressing it to be the only way to have peace in the Middle East. Netanyahu says Israel will not cede land to Palestinians. You notice the date? It was just about a month ago. We expect the Israelis to give back these holy places. We believe in freedom of religion, but Jews won't have rights there because these are our places. That's from PLO, Supreme Muslim Council. These terms will be considered by Islam to be impartial and fair, regardless of the suffering and loss of the life that it would inevitably incur. This means the Jewish citizens will be living under Islamic rule and have to mingle or cohabitate with the enemy, which, according to Scripture, is impossible. Can two walk together except they agree? This is where verse 6 is fulfilled. And in the end of years or extremity of time, they, Islam, and the king of the south, Israel, shall join themselves together. Sooner or later, we will force Israeli society to join a larger society, that is, our Arab society, and we will thereby bring about the dissolving of the Zionist entity in stages. But she, Israel, shall not retain or withhold the power of the arm or the military might. Israel is caught between a rock and a hard place, but to avoid being annihilated, the government, the military, and the citizens all agree to give Jerusalem up. But she, Jerusalem, shall be given up or surrendered, and, as well as they that begot her, the king or government, he that beget her, the citizens, the Jewish people, and he, the armed force that strengthens or fortifies her in these times. There will not be peace without Jerusalem. Our independence will not be complete without Jerusalem. Beloved Jerusalem will return to us. And this is the Palestinians. This is a quote from one of them. We are now preparing our national institutions for the establishment of a Palestinian state whose capital will be Holy Jerusalem. But she, Jerusalem, shall not stand or remain on his, Islam's side, neither be or continue for him. In other words, Islam will not retain his hold on her either. Neither shall he, Islam, stand nor his arm. He, Israel, will give over to him, Islam, the daughter among women, Jerusalem, to destroy her. But it, the agreement, will not succeed, and she, Jerusalem, will not be his. Even though Islam achieves his goal in forcing Israel to accept their peace agreement, it will not succeed nor be to their advantage, and the plot thickens. Unequally yoked. This act of cohabitation between Jews and Muslims is the next mistake that Israel makes against the Torah. Deuteronomy 7:3, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. And a marriage just means to dwell together or cohabitate. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. And what accord or peaceful coexistence, agreement, friendly relations, or a peace treaty hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement or formal contract, situation, or act of consent hath the temple of God with idols? And here's a quote: Israel might as well have signed a peace treaty with the devil himself as with the PLO. This signing of this agreement with Islam is a nightmare of a marriage and worse than an immiserable existence. Israel pays a high price. Islam expresses great contempt towards the Jews and treats them with extremely ruthless and cruel behavior. You know, when I was doing this, putting this PowerPoint together, I had been looking at this obviously for years, but when I was actually putting this on there, I literally cried all day long when I was doing this because I knew the pain and the suffering that's going to go on when this happens. I mean, it's going to be a horrible deal. One might reason that Israel has no options in this situation, but this is not true. The fact is, Israel, through her pride, was depending on her own wisdom and military might to retain their hold on Jerusalem rather than relying on the strength of the Lord. They forgot the example set before them by their own ancestry, King Hezekiah, meaning strengthened of Yah, who came under the very same situation against his enemy, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, as that of which modern Israel is faced with, only with victory rather than defeat. You must read this incredible story in 2 Kings chapter 18 and 19, telling the account of Sennacherib, the evil, cruel king of Assyria, coming to defeat Hezekiah, king of Israel, to take over Jerusalem, and even offering them a peace treaty in exchange for their lives. This exact same scenario. The difference that brings the ending results between these two accounts is recorded in 2 Kings chapter 19. If only modern Israel would read and take heed, their outcome might be different. Is history being repeated? And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Mock means to treat somebody with scorn or contempt. Scorn is disdain, a strong feeling of contempt. Contempt, attitude of utter disgust or hatred. A powerful feeling of dislike towards somebody considered to be worthless, inferior, or undeserving of respect. Therefore she, or Sarah, said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heirs or an inheritor with my son, even with Isaac. Cast out means to drive out from a possession, especially to expel or thrush out. Expel means to drive out or push or drive something out with force. Ishmael or Islam will attack or will again mock Isaac, Israel, and will again be driven from the land by a man in authority. This will bring rest or a condition of peacefulness to Israel for a short time. Continuing with Daniel 11, verse 18. After this shall he, king of Islam, turn his face into the isles or coasts and islands or Cyprus, and shall capture many. But a prince means a ruler, highly regarded man of authority, for his own behalf shall cause the reproach, and that's that arrogant language or treatment or mocking offered by him, king of Islam, to cease or stop. Expelling Islam. Without or because of his, king of Islam's, own reproach, his mocking, he, man of authority, shall cause it, that haughty, grossly disrespect and brutal behavior, to turn back upon him, the king of Islam. But a foreign leader will defeat him and put an end to his arrogance. Indeed, he will turn the arrogance of the king of the north back on him. That's taken from the Good News Bible. And here's another one from the New Jerusalem Bible. But a magistrate will put a stop to his outrages. And the Living Bible, but a general will stop him and cause him to retreat in shame. What is the reason why this man of authority stops the reproach of Islam? Is it to help Israel? No. It is for his own behalf. Joe Bainerman wrote an extensive essay on the Vatican agenda, which reveals its secret agenda to have the UN take control over Jerusalem and then use it for the Vatican's own personal agenda. In what possible way could this man of authority legally cause Islam's own condescending, arrogant ways to be turned back upon himself, forcing the king of the north to retreat to his own land humiliated? International law does not recognize a legal right to possess lands gained by aggression, which is how Islam gains the control of Jerusalem. However, when territory is gained through a defense against invasion, international law does not require withdrawal from those lands. Continuing with Daniel 11, then he, king of Islam, shall turn his face towards the fort or fortified place of his own land. But he, king of Islam, shall stumble, waver, and fall, be slain, and not be found. He'll be ceased to be. He, Islam, will fall back upon his own strongholds. There he will come to disaster, be overthrown, and be seen no more. A cruel taskmaster. Then shall stand up in his, the fallen king of Islam's, estate or office or place, a raiser of taxes, a taskmaster to rule with unjust and oppressive severity in the glory of the kingdom, Jerusalem. Then shall arise in his place, the fallen king of Islam, one who will send an exactor of tribute through the glory of the kingdom, Israel. It looks as though this taskmaster is appointed the task of exacting or demanding by force tribute or extorted money from those living in Israel. Extorted money, payment exacted or extorted for protection. In history, it means payment by one ruler to another as a sign of submission. In medieval society, a payment made by a vassal to a feudal lord or an obligation for such payment. Feudalism, medieval social system, the legal and social system that existed in medieval Europe, in which vassals held land from lords in exchange for military service or protection. Do you see how this is coming about? How the Vatican's going to get control? Vassal, dependent landowner in feudal society, somebody who gave loyalty and homage to a feudal lord and received the right to occupy the lord's land and be protected by him. Could this taskmaster be someone who was sent by this man in authority who had the power to stop the aggression of abusive treatment by the king of the north against Israel, now demanding tribute from the Jews in exchange for the protection of them from the cruel hand of Islam? Continuing, verse 20, but within a few days he, the taskmaster, shall be destroyed. He'll die, neither in anger, wrath, nor in battle, war. In history, the raiser of taxes was none other than Roman's Augustus Caesar, who was the founder of the Roman kingdom. Augustus died in his sleep. The Roman state was succeeded by the head of the Roman church. Is history being repeated again? The vile person and judgment. Study Revelation and in connection with Daniel, for history shall be repeated. And in his, the taskmaster's estate or place, shall stand up a vile person, which means impure, unclean, wicked, sinful, and repulsive, to whom they, Islam or Israel, shall not give the honor of the kingdom. There will arise in his place a despicable man not entitled to inherit the majesty of the kingdom. Jerusalem is the one obstacle to the world system whose financial control will ultimately fall into the hands of one man. That man, the chief conspirator against the city of peace, is already active behind the scenes. Soon he will come forward to take his bow. Initially, he will be applauded as the one who brings order and resolution to the problems in the Middle East. Pope Francis waded headfirst into Middle East Peacemaking Sunday, welcoming the Israeli and the Palestinian presidents to the Vatican for an evening of peace prayers, just weeks after the last round of U.S.-sponsored negotiations collapsed. After the death of this taskmaster, this vile person now becomes king of the north. His approach to gain control of Israel is done in craftiness and deceit, not with force of arms. But he, the vile person, shall come in peacefully. It means in peace and quietness. Peaceably, peace, security, and prosperity. You've heard that before? And peaceably, in the Microsoft dictionary, means inclined towards peace and avoiding contentious situations. Peace treaty, a treaty agreeing to an end of hostility between two warring parties. It is entirely possible that this future prophesied peace treaty will be broken in the aftermath of a major future Middle East conflict. This coming war may turn out to be a very destructive one, and history demonstrates a recurring pattern. Great treaties do not happen in peacetime. Real and significant peace treaties usually follow wars. This man, the chief conspirator, will claim to have a perfect peace plan. His plan will be praised not only by Israel, but by the U.S. and European nations and the entire world. But this chief conspirator will only wears the mask of a peacemaker. In reality, he is a totalitarian. His goal will be a monopoly of absolute control over the affairs of men and ultimately to destroy the world as we know it. Continuing with verse 21. The vile person obtains or seizes the kingdom Israel by flatteries, smooth talk, deceit, treachery, and betrayal. Flatteries, blandishment, treacherous, very smooth. Blandishment, the use of flattery and enticements to persuade somebody to do something. Treacherous, traitorous, betraying somebody's trust, confidence, or faith. Perilous, involving hidden dangers or hazards. Betrayal, go against promise. Deceit, dishonest practice, the act of practicing, of deceiving or misleading. Very smooth, insincerely convincing, using insincere flattery and pleasantness, especially in order to persuade somebody to do something. But he will come without warning and gain the kingdom by intrigue. Intrigue, to scheme or use underhanded methods to achieve something. Scheme or plot, a secret and cunning plan, especially when designed to cause damage or harm. Another way of saying it, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences will stand up. Dark sentence, it means a puzzle or a trick. Cunning deception, a cunning action or plan that is intended to cheat or deceive. Fierce, strong, vehement, harsh, greedy, mighty, powerful, aggressive. It means is taken from to be stout, literally hardened, boldness, rude, prevails, stronger, or predominant. This is the exact description of the little horn. Even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look or vision or his dream was more stout or determined than his fellows. The peace plan of destruction. Before territorial problems are resolved, we have to find international guarantees to safeguard the uniqueness of the city and assurance that never again one party should claim Jerusalem as its possession. Jerusalem, should be a crossroads of peace, a bridge between earth and heaven. That's the Vatican's foreign minister. Those are a quote from him. This statement shows the Vatican's determination to terminate Israel's exclusive sovereignty over East Jerusalem. At the proper moment in history, the Pope will visit the combined Jewish, Christian, Muslim sector of Jerusalem to announce that all religions should be combined into one. This action will then finally break the Middle East logjam. At this moment, the prophesied one world religious system under the fourth beast will have been fulfilled. The new world religion, one world religion. This Middle East peace plan between Israel and Islam with the Pope as the middleman has been in progress for many years. This covenant, entitled Agreement of Principles between the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Holy See, calls for a peaceful solution to the Palestinian-Israel dispute, to be achieved through negotiations and agreements to establish the national legitimate and inalienable rights and the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people, to ensure peace and security for all people of the region, on the basis of international law and UN resolutions, including the relevant Security Council resolutions on the base of justice and equality. Man, that just takes you right back just a few verses up. It also states that an equitable solution for the issue of Jerusalem based on international resolutions is fundamental for a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. And that any unilateral decision and action altering the special character and legal status of Jerusalem are morally and legally unacceptable. This historic agreement calls for a special status for Jerusalem, internationally guaranteed. Palestinians propose giving Temple Mount to the Pope. The PA in Ramah told the U.S. it is willing to give the old city of Jerusalem to a proposed joint committee to administer the Temple Mount. The Pope is longing to set up his throne on the Temple Mount and gain support from Islam. These wicked men are in agreement. Does Israel have an agreement with the Pope as well? The Vatican already has a significant presence in Jerusalem by virtue of free access to its holy sites, over which Rome has legal jurisdiction under Israeli law. This consolidation of these agreements came by virtue of a bilateral agreement termed the Fundamental Agreement between the Holy See and the State of Israel, which the Israeli government signed with the Vatican on December 30, 1993. 6 months after the signing of the bilateral agreement between Israel and the Vatican on June 15, 1994, the Israeli government inked a further agreement with the Vatican endorsing the Roman Catholic Church participation in negotiations to determine the future of Jerusalem. Peace process. Shimon Peres meets the Pope. Ex-Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres meets with Pope Ratzinger today for a 40-minute session in which he discussed the situation in Israel. The Vatican's official stance on Jerusalem is that it should become an international city governed neither by Jew nor Arab, but by the Church of Rome. I mean, wow. With the continuous strife in the Middle East, wars and rumors of wars, with the Bible prophecy telling us that when the Antichrist appears on the world, he will arrange a peace so deceitfully alluring that the world will adore him. Alluring, attractive and fascinating, extremely attractive, tempting, or glamorous, and able to arouse strong desires in people. Jerusalem must be declared an international city so that all members of the three major monotheistic religions of the world can worship together in peace. Jews, Muslims, and Christians will all be allowed to worship in this new international city and can even eventually worship in the ecumenical worship center. This attractive and fascinating league made between Israel, Palestinian, and the papacy will be to turn Jerusalem into an international city for all peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. If all religions on earth have an interest in this international city, a piece of the pie, so to speak, then this promise of peace, prosperity, and security for Jerusalem will bring with it the assurance of never being attacked again. What a clever plan. Did not the wisest man, King Solomon, come up with the ultimate peace plan by marrying the daughters of the kings of the surrounding nations to prevent them from attacking Israel? This deadly covenant of peace and safety or security is made by the Pope and UN with the full intentions to bring about Islam's and Israel's sudden and swift destruction. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Islam, the second horn broken. This little horn power will sweep away any and all forces of opposition as he pushes his way up among the 10 horns. He will succeed in breaking the power of Islam. And with the arms, the military might of a flood, means a sudden heavy downpour, shall they, the Palestinians, be washed away from before him, the vile person, and shall be broken, their power crushed. Making this verse more clear, this is from the Tanakh. The powers, Islam, that has swept away others will themselves be swept away before him, the vile person, and will be broken. Continuing with verse 22, yea, also the Prince of the Covenant. Remember who the Prince of the Covenant was? Commander of Israel, Prime Minister. Could this breaking of prince of covenant, to be the anti-type of the biblical strong man Samson, who in the process of destroying the Philistines was himself destroyed. It is very interesting to note that the Philistines were in control of Gaza at the time Samson prayed to God, asking that he would die with his enemies. Does this prince of the covenant also die with the enemy in Gaza, which is now controlled by the Palestinians, giving his life in the process of destroying Israel's enemy? Now that the Palestinian Islam's power is broken, the vile person directs his full attention to uprooting the third horn, Israel. Again, he will work very deceitfully through treachery and betrayal. Daniel speaks of the little horn in the same context of uprooting the three horns as subdue, fell, or broken. These words do not mean that the three horns are utterly destroyed and cease to exist, but rather that they are humbled, abased, belittled, weakened, inferior, humiliated. They lose their power and their influence by this little horn. Israel is next. Israel, where the end begins and the world ends. We're getting close. Christ, upon the Mount of Olives, rehearsed the fearful judgments that were to precede his second coming. While these prophecies received a partial fulfillment at the destruction of Jerusalem, they have a more direct application to the last days. God's final warning to Israel: take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them. A covenant is a legally binding agreement which is strictly forbidden of God, of his people, to unbelievers. Why is it so important that they do not make a covenant with this vile person? For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. What happens if Israel makes this covenant with this man of sin? So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Why? Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his laws. Therefore he, the Lord, hath poured upon him, Israel, the fury of his anger and the strength of battle. And the policy of the man of sin, Satan and his agents, has always been with those who makes a contract with them to be betrayed and destroy. Is to betray and destroy, which he does through the power of words. The nations of the world need to take heed and beware. I mean, it's happened many times. Fraudulent leagues. Continuing on with Daniel 11:23, and after the league, a compact to join together made with him be between the Vatican and Israel. Okay, it means leagues and alliance means an association of groups, peoples, or nations who agree to cooperate to achieve a common goal. Israel does this because they think this is their only way out. He, the vile person, shall work deceitfully, craft, beguile, treachery, and betrayal. How does this vile person accomplish this fraudulent league with Israel? League, to join specifically by means of spells, to fascinate, charm, be compact or coupled together or have fellowship with. Spell, influence of magical words, the influence that a spell has over somebody or something. Charm, attractiveness, the power to delight or attract people. Joining in this covenant with the man of sin is the third and deadliest mistake that the king of Israel makes in trying to restore peace in Israel by his own power and wisdom and disregarding Yahweh's laws. After entering into this fraudulent league with Israel, this vile person will work in a devious way to form a fraudulent alliance with all the nations of the earth, to use them against Israel for his own agenda, to get full and complete control of Jerusalem, so as to carry out his final plan to deceive the world by ushering in the Antichrist, who will claim to be the true Messiah, deceiving the masses of humanity at the end. Israel's inheritance must first be taken away. Through shrewdness and craftiness, this vile person conjures up a very treacherous and cleverly thought out plan of betrayal, going against his promise to Israel with full intentions to deceive and to destroy. And through his vile person's policy, Also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Policy is a course of action, a program of actions adopted by a person, group, or government, or a set of principles on which they are based. Prudence means shrewdness, especially in the pursuit of a course of action. Daniel 11:23 continued, "For he, the little horn, shall come up or grow, increase, and shall become strong or powerful with a small or few people. And he will come up and gain power with a small nation." The Vatican is a government with its own money, Secretary of State, and ambassadors. It is a recognized nation. "And out of one of them, the four horns, came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land," and that's Israel. Here's a picture again of the New World Order diagram. You see the four horns and how the little horn will come out of Europe. "The whore will sit in Jerusalem with control over all the religious and political affairs of the world." I blinked out their faces because I'm not calling any person the whore. It's the system. That's the whore. Rome's policy, deviousness. The first job of the chief conspirator is to convince the nations that no such conspiracy exists. Every conspirator must be an accomplished liar as well as a far-sighted planner. No one could be fooled if the conspirator came to the forefront and acknowledged that his intent was absolute dictatorial control of Israel and through duplicity and deception, and then ultimately to gain absolute power over the governments of the world. Trouble in the Holy Land. Israel surrender holy sites to Vatican. Israel could be entering the final stages to turn over control of Mount Zion to the Vatican. A secretive meeting took place this week, this has been several years ago, between the Jerusalem Municipality, Prime Minister's Office, Ministry of Tourism, and the senior Catholic officials. During the meeting, the Catholic delegation reportedly pressed Israel to follow through on a year-old proposal to give the church control over the compound that houses the traditional hall of the Last Supper. The problem is that the same compound also houses the traditional Tomb of David, a holy site. Not to mention that Mount Zion is symbolic of Jerusalem as a whole, and surrendering it to the Vatican would be seen by many Israelis as a repudiation of Jerusalem's claim to the city. The Jerusalem municipality released a statement insisting that it would remain the central sovereign power on Mount Zion. That was in 14. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. For thou, Lucifer, hast said in thine heart, I will sit upon the mount of the congregation, Zion on the sides of the north. This is Mount Zion in literal Jerusalem. Continuing with Daniel 11:24. He, the vile person, shall enter peaceably, promising security and prosperity, even upon the fattest or rich fertile places of the providence. Providence is a judgeship or jurisdiction, a legal authority. The authority to enforce laws or pronounce legal judgments, divide the land into geopolitical areas. And he shall divide the land for gain. And the 10 horns are the 10 kings which have received no kingdoms as yet. So here's the 10 kingdoms already mapped out that they have planned. Providence, policy. Province, that's right, province. Politics, okay, the administrative divisions of nations. In Christianity, it means the ecclesiastical territory under the jurisdiction of an archbishop. Ancient history, the regions of Roman Empire, a country or region controlled by the ancient Roman Empire through an appointed governor. Geopolitical, the study of the interrelationship between politics, geography, and the population distribution in or between countries. Pope John II insisted that men have no reliable hope of creating a viable geopolitical system unless it is on the basis of Roman Catholic Christianity. Interrelationship, to have a relationship in which each person or thing depends on or is affected by the other, or cause persons or things to have such a relationship. Distribution, giving out, the handing out or delivery of things to a number of people. Sharing, the process of dividing up and giving out something shared by a number of people. This is socialism. The world must share wealth. And he, the vile person, shall do that which his fathers or those who ruled before him have not done, nor his father's father, no former pope before him. He, vile person, shall scatter, disperse among them his allies, the prey, the booty, the spoils and riches, property as gathered. Yea, and he shall forecast or fabricate or plot in a malicious sense his devices, his intentions, his plans, and cunning work against the strongholds or fortified cities, even for a time, a period allocated to complete an activity, 3.5 years. Revelation 13:5 says, and the power was given unto him, the little horn, to continue 42 months. This vile person will gain favor of the kings and the merchants of the earth by distributing, I knew it, I was just testing you again, among them the goods and riches of the seized valuables of not only of Israel, but the world, and by dividing the land for gain. Revelation 18:3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath for fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth were waxed rich through the abundancies of her delicacies. Rome wants to establish herself as the universal public authority, acknowledged as such by all, and endowed with the power to safeguard on the behalf of all security, regard for justice, and respect for rights. One of the more significant reasons for world government is to manage the world economy and the redistribute goods from the rich nation to the poor nations. What does the mean by redistribution of goods? It means that Rome, functioning as a public authority, has the power to confiscate all private property and use it for the common good. And Rome, as the public authority, decides how your property is to be used for that common good, according to Rome's conception of the universal destination of all goods. You have no say. Super blood moon number 2. 4. Do I have 5 minutes? Okay. I think I can get through this one. Israel betrayed, the breaking of the third horn. Consider the circumstances of the Jewish nation when the prophecies of Daniel were given. That's what, spirit of prophecy. In what condition was Israel when these prophecies of Daniel were written? They were in bondage to Babylon. We must consider it. As with Islam, so with Israel. This promise of peace and safety, security given by the little horn to Israel was nothing more than a devious lie made with full intentions to bring about Israel's swift and sudden destruction. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden, unexpected, unawares destruction, ruin, and death cometh upon them, and they shall not escape. Any purely political settlement in the Middle East would not by itself bring peace. In other words, a purely political settlement would have the religious nature of the problem unsolved. Any permanent solution in the Middle East conflict would also have to see the religious portion of the problem solved. Once this religious problem is solved, then the power and influence of the Orthodox Jews in Israel would permanently decline. The Vatican has always wanted to move to Jerusalem because that's where the true Christian church began. The Orthodox Jews have stopped her, and that is why they're on Rome's hit list. This vile person, through his wealth and evil influence, will arouse those nations allied with him to lead a great army against Israel. Luke 21:20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of her depart out, and not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, and all things which are written may be fulfilled. Continue with Daniel 11:25. And he, the vile person, shall stir up or wake up his power, military force, and I truly believe it's the United Nations force, and his courage against the king of the south, Israel, with a great exceeding army. And the king of the south, Israel, shall be stirred up, angry to battle, warfare, with a very vehement, great and mighty, powerful army. But he, king of Israel, shall not stand, for they, Rome and his cohorts, shall forecast, contrive devices, a cunning plan or ploy against him, king of Israel. And his, Israel's army, shall be overflown or swept away, and many shall fall down slain. In the footnotes under this verse in the Tanakh, it says, Rome will sweep away the leaderless armies of the slain king of the south. Secret plot. A scheme is a secret plot, a secret and cunning plan, especially when designed to cause damage or harm. This cleverly thought out scheme shows skill and shrewdness on behalf of the vile person and his cohorts to take over Jerusalem. Yet the king of the south will not persist, for the traitors will lay their plots. Could these traitors come from within the court of the kings, Israel's king? But the king of the south will be deceived and will not be successful. His closest advisors will ruin him. Now, non-Jewish Arab Israelis and even anti-Jewish Israelis have an official voice in the Israeli government at the Knesset, but so do the ultra-Orthodox and other religious voices. Yea, they, the betrayers of Israel, that feed, eat, or dine on the portion of his, the king of Israel's meats or provisions, shall destroy or break or crush him, the king of Israel. Is this a replay of the story of Judas betraying Jesus after the Passover supper? Those who eat of his food will break him. It does not seem that the king of Israel is killed at this time, as he is mentioned again in verse 27. The word destroy also means to be crushed, which is, in this case, might mean the king of Israel is emotionally devastated and is military ruined. Israel's inalienable rights. I better stop here. Okay, we'll continue this tomorrow. Probably gave you enough to digest, maybe give you indigestion. Okay, do we have bow our heads for a closing prayer? Our most kind Father in heaven, we have been reading some pretty heavy stuff here, and it's heartbreaking to see how the nations of the world are just so fighting each other. It's so sad to see the suffering and the pain and the bloodshed and the strife that will be happening here very soon. But we know, Father, that this is all going to happen and take place because Yeshua is the only one that can come and redeem any of us from all of this, Father. And we just appreciate you so for giving us that hope and looking forward to that time, dear Lord, when we will see Jesus coming. For we ask it in the precious name of Yeshua. Amen.